Welcome, everybody, to This Is Difficult, the podcast, where we talk about absolutely nothing show's over by. I tried it again. I did that joke once before, a little different, but it was fun this time. I
was just more laughing at your little robot thing as Paul was counting.
At my countdown. Welcome to the best video game review show ever. We also talk about our lives. And, yeah, it's pretty lofty, I'd say. I mean, technically it's an opinion, but I feel like it could show up in an acclaimed newspaper at some point. Anyway.
What, like the hippo?
Podcast reviewed in newspaper. Perfect 10. Yeah, that makes sense. Anyway. Welcome to the show. Paul, kick us off. What do we got going on this week? Yes. Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, you tell me. You guys play any games? You have some good stuff? Yep. I'm Paul. Ryugami-san. We got Josh over here in the middle, dropping the ball on our intro as per
like the
usual.
Second time I've done that.
Lord Yeshua. And Zach, another letdown over there on the left-hand side there.
Yeah, definitely drop the ball.
Yeah, and we're here to talk about video games and other things, but mostly just video games. And tell me about your week, Josh. Did you have a good week? How'd it go?
What a week!
Have fun. Play some games.
Bunch of games and movies and stuff. I saw the Eternals, the French Dispatch, and a bunch of other stuff this week, and then a bunch of games. Me and Colin were streaming everything that we could online on the new online thingies for the Switch because we want to really push to see what's good and what's bad. The N64 is super lacking right now, in my opinion, as far as machinery is concerned. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just not. But Colin says it's very hard to replicate an N64 emulator, to which I say we have the best one in our possession, mod loader. But I guess the actual company that made these games can't do it as good. That's kind of weird. Anyway,
so passion project, right? So you get super invested in something that you're doing for fun. The outcome is going to be, I would imagine, better than
mass production based on. It's just like a reprint. Ocarina of Time is the one that really hurts because it's basically like a restamp, and a lot of things are really slowed. And you get the original versions of the games. You can still do some fun breaks and stuff like that, like with Super Mario 64. But for the most part, the lag and the input is just so much worse that you actually can't achieve any of these things at all. And so it ends up being the worst versions of at least Ocarina of Time and Super Mario 64. Period. I didn't notice anything bad about Star Fox, Mario Tennis, or Yoshi. I thought those felt great. I thought those were all great. I think Ocarina of Time and 64 are the only ones I really noticed. We played through Super Mario World this week. That was really fun. And we beat Super Mario Bros. I was like, cool, we'll switch back and forth whenever we die. And I literally didn't die, and I just beat the game.
No.
It was really fun. It took us 20 minutes.
Yeah, there you go.
The game is so short, and there's save states, so he was like, just keep going.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. That's all I did. My life is a lie. No, I'm just kidding. You're up.
That's hilarious. Zach, what'd you do this week, man?
I got actually quite a fair amount of gaming time. So it's no surprise based on the title of this episode that we're going to be talking about Metroid Dread today.
Yeah.
But so I definitely played a lot of that. I had to make sure I finished it, but I finished it way faster than I thought I would. So affording myself a good chunk of time this weekend to play games. I also finished Batman Arkham Knight on stream. So that review will be coming soon also.
Great.
I played a few minutes of Star Fox 64, got frustrated with the upside down controls.
What upside down controls?
The fact that you.
Oh my god, it doesn't even make sense to me because it's so innate. It's so innate.
Exactly. I'd forgotten, and I was like, okay, I need to go make dinner. I don't have time to deal with this.
The controls are the highest praise I have about that game.
They're great. They're great. It's great, but I just forgot that they are the way they are. It's not a big deal. I will definitely be going back and playing more Star Fox 64.
Good. We played a lot of multiplayer of that too. It was fun.
Yeah. But then I was like, I'm going to play games that Josh thinks are crap.
Which ones?
I played Yoshi Story.
I think Yoshi Story is amazing. When did I say that was crap? I literally just said I played Yoshi
or something like that.
I literally just said I played Yoshi this week. I love that game.
Maybe I just misinterpreted then.
I probably said it's crap.
Yoshi's crap.
I think all of the Yoshi games.
I love Yoshi's Island, and I definitely love
Yoshi's Island doesn't count. Yoshi's Island is technically Super Mario 2 or whatever.
I gave Crafted World a pretty high score. I don't remember though.
Yeah, you did.
But I think I did. No,
but
you're thinking of
regardless. I played that for 20 minutes. I'm like, this is not as good as I remember it as a child.
It's the floaty controls. It's really
correct.
floaty.
The floaty controls are very strange, and it's
in a bottle, it's a very good game. In a vacuum, I should say, it's a very good game. But like, damn, if it's not, I was watching some speedrunners play that also this week, and it's like insane. They work with the floatiness, and it's really cool.
Oh, I believe it.
I think the best thing about that game is the aesthetics. I think it's a beautiful game.
It's gorgeous.
One of the best looking 64 games, but other than that, doesn't do a lot for me.
Actually. I'd say it looks really good. It does to the N64 what Donkey Kong Country did to the Super Nintendo with that like amazing smoothness that we hadn't seen before.
It also invented the term 2.5D.
Yes, it did.
Oh wow, did it? Amazing. And then they really pushed that on the Wii with the fucking Super Paper Mario and all that 2 and 3D at the same time.
Well, the other one that I have like visual proof in front of me that Josh said was garbage was Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
It is garbage. It's a trash game. You should never
I
play
played the whole damn game and hated it. Oh my god, it's so hard. It's so hard in single player. Oh my god. But as a multiplayer experience, as I constantly toward the end, because in the original implementation, you played in multiplayer and Tails could carry your ass through the entire game.
We tried to do that. Me and Colin couldn't figure out how to do that, and it was like really frustrating.
It's a giant pain.
Pick up the second controller.
And then the second player, there's no well, he was second controller. I couldn't figure it out. We were like trying to touch up on each other, and I was like, I don't know, Tails.
No, you just jump in the air and fly, and you can come down. Yeah.
Okay. Aside from that, it's so clunky. Like jumping and shit. Half of my save state reloads were literally just like missing a platform.
Right.
Because it's so janky.
And then the end boss is a giant dick because you have no opportunity to get rings. And it's just like,
I'm sure, yeah.
Ugh, it was terrible. But I did beat it. The
health system is moronic.
It's dumb.
The health. Why are rings like why? Your point system is tied to your health. It's the dumbest thing. Also, is it a platformer?
Stupid.
Is it a platformer or is it a visual roller coaster simulator / terrible platformer? I'm like, if it's a platformer, it's not one. And if it's a roller coaster simulator, it's just like so pointless because when you enter those sequences, it's auto generating basically, and you're like, this is all no skill and
there's nothing involved. It's just stealing.
Yeah, it's all it's memorization, really. The design philosophy for that game just doesn't really suit what the execution.
They wanted it to be Mario, and they were like, we could do like.
They didn't want it to be Mario. They didn't want it to be Mario at all.
They wanted to be like
I don't think they were trying to. I don't think they were trying to be second to Mario. They were trying to go fast. They're trying to illustrate the what's the name of the chip on it?
I heard they made Sonic because they needed an iconic. They didn't.
They did. They did. But they wanted to basically say like, oh, Mario's slow. Like, check out this game. It's prettier and it runs really fast.
Like after you do all these roller coaster parts, you slap into a wall and you're like way slower than Mario ever could have been, where you can flawlessly run through a level at full speed. Like
I personally, so Adam, our Paul's brother, our friend,
sure he's amazing at these games.
Well, he's like, oh, Sonic 2 doesn't punish you for going fast. I'm like, yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. You slap into like anything or die immediately.
You get into there's one zone where there's just a toxic sludge below you. And if you don't go incredibly slowly, you're just gonna fall and die.
Dude, it's like Dark Souls at some points. Like you literally lose all of your health in one hit. Right. All of your health. And now you cannot take one hit. What was the point of the rings?
You pick up the ring.
You just have one ring. Yeah, maybe
you can't, if you're running half the time they bounce away.
Got by a bee or something, and now
you because of the
momentum. You're like, what the fuck?
I don't know.
I agree. You only need one ring, but then it's like, why? Why not just like?
Well, you want as many rings as you can because that gets you into your bonus stages. That effectively acts as your life, because if you get hit and you lose your rings, the more you have, the more likely you are to pick more up.
I think which would have made more sense is to start at 0 health. And getting a ring brings you to 1 health, and then you just get hurt and you're back at 0. And then when you get a ring, it heals you again.
That's another reason.
Fine. But make the rings just the point system. Don't lose them all from getting hit. I'm like, why? Moronic.
Stop. Because Mario only gives you maximum 3 health. If you have
amazing. 2 health in the OG. 2 health in the OG.
Yeah, 2 health in the. Well, no, it's still maximum 3 if you have.
No, it's any.
Wait, so if you get a.
Yeah, it's
Really?
fucked. Same with World.
Yeah,
I promise.
No, that's
I
correct.
forgot about this until we were playing that.
Yeah.
But like in World, it's especially punishing.
Yeah.
Like,
so I don't
Well,
think I think
World
Sonic
Edition
actually gives you a better opportunity to have a bigger health pool. So
More health.
if you're gonna compare the two games, I think
Mar-
that's a hard one to try and win on.
Sonic
if
is
you're
less forgiving than Mario though, because you actually know what's going on.
That is correct.
but not in boss battles. The boss battles are really actually
The boss battles
that's
are
easy.
the boss
Mario's
battles are
easy,
really
though.
good
Correct.
in
I agree.
Sonic, and that's mostly where you need your health.
I will agree that the boss battles are more difficult and creative than in Mario bosses. I can give you that, but that doesn't mean the whole game is. I think Mario bosses are intentionally easy as fuck, like because they really want people to learn the game. We're going deep on this shit,
which we shouldn't be.
No,
But
wait,
like,
I don't
well,
care.
actually, no.
I don't know. It's fun.
Oh, this is exactly our topic. This is artificial difficulty.
Oh, here we go.
This kind of does
This
fit
is
in
literally
artificial.
exactly our topic.
I mean,
so, Paul,
we
why don't you
could.
share your games real quick, and then we'll get back at this.
Yeah.
So I only played 2 games this week. Well, I kind of played a little bit of Dread, just going back and like
Tasted a little.
100%ing it. Like went and got all the stuff that I missed, which was fun. Some of the Shine Spark stuff made me want to beat my head through my desk, but
I was like, I don't understand a lot of this stuff.
There's some really cool ones, but
there are some that are fucking crazy, and
There's-
to the second, to like you have to be perfect in order to get some.
yeah, there's a couple
Yes.
that I
exactly two.
had some trouble
There's
with.
the
But
morph ball ones. I'm like, what?
I like the
never told
morph
me
ball
that.
ones actually. I like the morph
Never
ball.
told me
I
to
like
do
that.
that. I was like, what
Yeah, I
the
like
fuck?
that.
You've been able to do that
Anyway.
since Super Metroid.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I never in that game.
But
The other game, Paul, was?
so the other game was the other 2 games actually, because I wasn't really counting that one.
Okay.
Would be Samurai Warriors 5, which you guys
Nice.
know I've been playing through that on Samurai Saturday. I'll review that game. And then also I've been playing with a friend, and we kind of even started a new maybe occasional spot on the regular stream called Souls Mates.
I hate
We played some-
That's terrible.
We played
Die.
some Demon Souls remake, and god damn, that
Souls
game
Mates.
is a masterpiece.
Game's so good.
They did so. Blue Point, who remade that game, elevated that game so well. It's like not only is it like a perfect recreation, but like they've made everything so gorgeous and so tight, and like god damn, it's good.
Can't wait to play it. Ha ha ha.
The
They
one
made it so accessible for the gaming community.
it's
didn't
gonna
they?
it's gonna come to PC.
It has to.
I almost guarantee you it's gonna.
I'm
In fact,
sad.
it leaked. The PC port leaked at the announcement.
But how are
of
they
it.
going to drop that?
So-
Elden Ring's going to come out and it's going to go to the wayside, and I'm going to.
No, it is not. Elden Ring is gonna be huge.
That's
Trust me.
no. Other way around is what I meant. I'm
Oh.
saying if I'm saying Elden Ring is going to overshadow this, and
Yeah,
it's gonna
well,
be
I don't
like,
think they're gonna
I'm
release
not
it in
gonna
the
wanna
same
play both.
window, anywhere close to the
not.
same window.
No, I would love that to come out this year, so I have something to play on the PC.
It's gonna come out next year. Elden Ring is, and
No, the
and
other way. The other
Demon
guy,
Souls. Demon Souls, I would guess probably comes out in a year to a year and a half, maybe.
I'll be over it by then.
PlayStation is making a big push with PC games right now. So anyway,
They're trying. I know we didn't get Final Fantasy remakes until like yesterday, and I don't care. I really cared when it came out, and I really don't care now because so much is like deflated about it. I was like, they like lost the sale because I didn't have it on PC.
Final
right
Fantasy
away.
VII remake.
Yeah, the remake.
Didn't
it
have you played it?
No, I don't care anymore because it didn't
See-
come out for the PC until a year and a half later.
Sure, fine. I
was
hear
like,
it's goddamn amazing.
I
So
hear
I
it's
mean, if
glitchy
you're a
as
fan of
fuck.
Final Fantasy VII,
I hear it's a
Then-
fraction of the game. You don't even leave Midgard until
so
like the
that's
very
also
end of the
not
game.
necessarily accurate. It's
It's
so
not.
so timeline, yes, but they've added a lot to the game and,
So it's
like really
different.
flushed out a whole bunch of stuff. If you ask Chamali, our producer,
You loved
um,
it.
he loves it, and he would say that it's basically a new game. It's like not even really Final Fantasy. It still has the Final Fantasy VII story and themes and all that, but it's so much more than just.
Maybe I'll play it.
So, yeah.
Hmm,
So
maybe I won't.
anyway, but back on Demon Souls, my one complaint is that it kept all of the original systems from the original Demon Souls, meaning that your Your souls are your currency. They're how you level up. They're everything, right? Which is kind of a pain in the ass. It punishes you so hard to play, which I realize is an aspect of Souls games that that this is actually a pretty decent example of our topic too. We can talk about, but it punishes you so hard. Not only do, like, once you die, you basically just have half health. Unless you have the cling ring on, which gives you 3/4 of your health. But so if you die too many times in human form, which also there's 2 ways to get back into human form: defeating a boss or using a very rare item to get you back in human form. If you die too many times in human form, the enemies in the level become much harder. You get these like red glowing enemies that are extremely difficult. Not only that, but when you're in human form, you can be invaded by other players. So it's more dangerous there. I don't hate it. I don't hate it, but it's like it feels like that game's trying to punish you at every turn. And then the final complaint is the multiplayer. While you're doing it, it is awesome, but your compatriots are at a disadvantage because they have to be in soul form instead of human form, so they're weakened. And also, you can be invaded. Also, you have to use. I mean, if you die, you have to one of you has to become human again in order for you guys to play together continuously. Right?
That's dumb. That's like with the embers and
so it really punishes you for not being a god at that game. So those are things that I realize are part of what makes the Souls genre what it is, but at the same time, I would have liked it if they adopted some of the systems that they put into the later games that make a little, some of those things a little more friendly. It's fine though. I still think the game's like a masterpiece. Like it's such a fucking phenomenal game. Anyway, let's move on to the topic. We're gonna do things a little different today. We're doing topic then review.
We got a meaty one.
Yeah, for 2 reasons. Number one, the topic
in and of itself.
Yes, the topic I feel like kind of we could talk about it in regard to what we're reviewing, but also the review is going to be pretty long, I think. Since we're kind of
another one of our trademark, all of us review it and write down our scores.
Let's just be real.
We're gonna go hard on this game. So anyway, the topic is artificial difficulty and how it impacts games, whether that be in a negative or positive way. Let's start out by just defining what artificial difficulty is. So the way I would define artificial difficulty is, rather than making a game harder by making the enemies and environments smarter and faster, using better AI, using more complex patterns, things like that to make a game difficult. Instead, you just give them a bigger health pool, give them more damage, that they deal, things like that. So basically, instead of turning the knob up on complexity, you turn the knob up on, more simple things like, just how much damage they do to you.
Can I ask if what is like Mario basically artificial damage then in this definition?
I wouldn't. So
Mario
yes,
Bros,
and
I don't know that it is, because Mario is.
If you fall into a gap, you die, and if you get hit, you die. Unless you have one power up.
It never changes. It's constant, which means that the game,
no matter how hard it gets.
Think about the sun.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The increasingly difficult environments mean it's not artificial. Okay.
Exactly. You get that foolish level where the sun is angry at you and chasing you. That's the environment behaving wildly differently than 1-1.
True.
1-1 is your template. And it's super straightforward. There's really not all that much that can kill you unless you're clumsy. But like, the number of times I've died on 1-1 because I get cocky is, unfathomable. But like, as the game progresses, the environments get more and more dangerous, complex, difficult. And I think that carries through pretty much the entire Mario franchise, right up to the 3D games.
I'd say so, yeah. Okay, that clarifies that a little. Yep. Okay, that makes sense.
a good example of artificial difficulty, let's use like shooters, right?
Yep.
A lot of times, instead of seeing like more intelligent AI in a shooter, all of a sudden they'll just be doing more damage, and they'll have a higher damage pool, and there will maybe be more of them, but they're not behaving any
Resident
differently.
Evil.
Resident Evil is a good example. Even
the artificial is it gives
as
you 5 bullets, and this guy dies in 4 shots. It's like, okay, and you have to search for them. You know what I mean? Like,
well, but I mean, even something as simple as Mercenary Kings. Like, you go through that game, the first couple of enemies, you know, they'll deal you a piece of health, but by the end of it, that game actually leverages both artificial and real difficulty really well, because you get these characters with crazy long reach. That's a character that's inherently behaving differently than your bog standard soldier dummy. But also they deal a buttload of damage.
Sure.
Okay.
Now, I don't necessarily think artificial difficulty is a bad thing when done right. Again, bringing up the topic of like shooters, like in horde modes, things like that, like that can elevate the intensity in a fun way, right?
Yeah.
If it's done well, if it's cranked up too high, it obviously makes it not fun at all. If things are one hitting you when they shouldn't, you know, like that makes it not fun. I do think that to a degree, the Souls games have a little bit of artificial difficulty, but they're very honest about that, right? Like
that's part of it.
Yeah,
that's a huge part
which is why people enjoy those games, because like it's all about pattern recognition and skill and that whole thing, and speccing out your character in an effective way to overcome those challenges, versus like something that just punishes you for not playing the way the game wants you to play it, period.
Interesting.
You know?
Well, Gears of War does that the same in a similar manner. They're very honest about the artificial difficulty in what is arguably the capstone trademark of the Gears of War franchise, which is of course horde mode. You ask almost any Gears player, and the first thing they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, let's play some horde mode." Horde mode is the best. As you escalate through horde mode, it's very clear. It says these enemies are now dealing more damage.
Right.
Here you go. Adjust. And it gives you the tools to overcome that. In Gears, I think it was Gears 4, might have been Gears 3. I want to say, I'm pretty sure it's 4. They give you the Fabricator, which allows you to modify your environment to overcome that artificial difficulty. It brings in elements of real difficulty, i.e., how do you change this environment in only 30 seconds? You only have 30 seconds to do it.
Right.
How do you adjust to overcome that artificial difficulty? That they are very plainly saying, here it is. This is how we're doing it. That honesty goes so far.
I think so. I think so, especially because when you encounter something where it's very clearly used as a mechanism to purely make the game only playable in a certain way, it becomes less fun. Because when you play a game, you want to be creative. You want to do things.
Exactly.
You want to play. Beat that boss the way you want to beat that boss.
Mario.
Sure.
That's why I love those games, because you can get access areas in all sorts of acrobatic ways, and there's not just one way to do things.
But when they dump something on you like that, where they're not honest about that, where they're not upfront about that, where there's when it's not an intelligent increase, of skill that's required, it's you must do this, otherwise
you have
fucked.
To do it this way. Exactly. Yeah. Right.
That to me becomes a little bit unfun. And I think that like I said before, it can be done in a good way, and many games do, like Gears of War, I think is a perfect example. And other shooters, even like Doom, right? Like cranking it up to hell mode or whatever. That's not necessarily making the AI better, right?
No,
it's the
same AI.
It's the same AI. They're just doing more damage, and there's probably more of them. There's more bullets you have to
moving faster.
And possibly moving faster, exactly. But that's something that you're signing up for, right?
Right.
Rather than like approaching a game that has taught you like what the world is like, or even a series of games. Like let's say you played, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you get to 5, and all of a sudden the dynamics changed, right?
Is that are we referencing anything?
I don't know.
See, I know you're not referencing Gears of War, but that is exactly how Judgment happened.
Of course not.
Sure.
Oh.
Sure.
Gears Judgment is oh god, because they changed everything.
Yeah, where it's like they teach you how to play a game a certain way and let you have the flexibility you want, but then all of a sudden comes this difficulty wall that has nothing to do with that challenge being like a more intricate pattern or a better AI or something like that, which would be like a more real difficulty. Instead they just make it more punishing for the sake of having you play it the way they want you to, which a game company has the right to do that, right? Like that's their product. If they want you to play it a certain way, fine. But what gets me is when it's done in like a kind of shady way or in a dishonest way. You know what I mean? I think both manners of difficulty can be beneficial, especially for people like speedrunners who want to, have like a higher challenge. And really the only way to do that with some games is to just turn that dial up, right? Yeah. But, for average gamers, unless you're signing up for something like a horde mode, I think it can be a bummer,
Mm-hmm. You want to see, especially if you're playing. I mean, Paul, you and I especially really love story-driven games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As we progress through a story mode, we don't want to see the same enemies over and over and over again, just with more damage or faster or whatever it is. We want to see a completely unique model. And I hate to keep bringing up Gears, but it does a great job of that. Gears Tactics, actually, specifically, at the very beginning of the game, introduces you to the very base model enemy, the Wretch, which is just coming at you. It's going to claw you to pieces. Mm-hmm. Great, fine, you move forward. Then, as you get better at the game, they're like, here's a drone. It behaves completely differently. In the last mission that Alex and I played on stream, we were like, we've never even seen this like elite drone thing. Not in any of the other Gears games. Awesome. This is fantastic.
One of my least favorite things they do is repaint a bad guy and put it later in. I actually think that's not disgraceful. It's sometimes cool to augment them. Like I've seen like corruption in the world, and now the bad guys are all different and they're stronger.
But that's a narrative reason for doing it.
It's like Hollow Knight, but then there's other things like Metroid series, and you get a red guy who flies and hits into you instead of a blue guy that flies and hits into you.
Now, some of that in earlier games was due to like limitations in the hardware, right? Because like you can't fit as many sprites in, you can't fit, like as many color palettes, things like that. So what you do is you do a palette swap. You crank up the difficulty on that a little, or make it behave a little bit different, and that's everyone had to do that. Yeah. In modern gaming, there's no excuse for that, I think, and that's a big complaint that people have had with Destiny for a long time. I think they're doing a better job of making more unique enemies now, but for a long time it was basically just palette swaps of
armored
whatever
that already existed.
And actually I think Destiny is very guilty of artificial difficulty, because most of the enemies in that game aren't very intelligent. I mean, they do a really good job with like the raids and stuff, but in your regular content, Nightfall, right? If you're doing like a Nightfall strike, that's pure artificial difficulty, right?
Absolutely,
the enemies aren't behaving differently. They're just more powerful. They take more to kill, and there's more of them,
And it's the same exact plot. Mm-hmm. Like it's the same as the regular
Doom is so
strike.
good like that.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, why am I doing this? Like, I understand that there's a drive for gear,
but
it's like, and the only reason I was doing it is because I would be doing it with Paul, you, and Merktool.
Right. Yeah, and we were doing it to get that that loot. And again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that if that's what you're signing up for, and that's what that is. But I think it's a little bit lazy, and I think it's less interesting. right?
Oh, don't worry. You can kill the silver Lionel and get a different hat. Then the striped yellow Lionel will give you the pants.
Yeah,
they're different. No one fucking knows.
Gross. Nobody cares.
Right.
There's actually like 10 bad guys in that game, just so you know. That's it.
10 of them.
Maybe like 9.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, shit, man. If you think about like
sprites in Breath of the Wild,
the bokoblins, like there's just like 3 or 4 different colors, you know, and they all have the same move sets.
Lionel, bokoblin, bat, lizard guy.
Yeah.
Lizard guy. Josh has forgotten his Mario
guy,
enemies.
Ice guy.
Blobby guy,
I know
guy.
all the names. Yeah,
I mean, most of Zelda is a little bit guilty of that, but that one being as big of a game as it wants to be would really benefit from some.
Considering how many bad guys exist in the Zelda universe, it's like a mockery to not have used nearly a fraction of them.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Other Zelda games, I love when games do this. They reimagine old bad guys like how Metroid did actually, and how I think that's cool when we see the bad guys that we saw in the originals or in Zelda. You know, it's a different iteration of the Moblin, the Babalkin, the everybody, the Keese, and you see what they look like in each genre, and you're like, oh, that's very cool to like see how they change it. But I agree, to reprint them over and over again just to make them more difficult is like they did in Breath of the Wild is stupid.
One of the things that I've always admired about a lot of Nintendo franchises is they're very cognizant of that. So if they are going to reuse an enemy, the Keese, for example, is a prime example. If they are going to change it, or they got reintroduce it rather, they change it in some way.
Let's set it on fire.
Sure, fire Keese, but that's different. You know,
set it on ice.
Lightning.
Sure.
Lightning Keese, baby.
Right. Lightning Keese.
That was a swarm of them.
But like the regular Joes in Mega Man. Just the average Joe nobody bad guy. The X series, obviously completely new enemies mostly, but you do see some of them even recur in Zero, which is canonically the sequel to X. Some of those original X bad guys are still kicking around.
Which I
also behave differently.
And some of them are definitely throwbacks to like the fat bat in Mega Man X, right?
Yes.
Like that's a throwback. It behaves a little differently. It actually behaves more like the original Mega Man games than the rest of the bats in the game. Definitely looks different, you know. But
it also recurs in Zero as well. In the cave levels.
I give respect to like games like Mega Man and Cuphead that do this, where they give you like a 1 health, low level, does the same amount of damage no matter what bad guy, but completely reskinned and acts completely different. Maybe heightened difficulty, but it's still your level 1 bad guy throughout the game. You know what I mean? But like to show it in a different light every single time is like takes a lot of imagination.
I think Mega Man does a much better job than a lot of older games with enemy diversity.
I think that and Cuphead are the only ones I can think of that is like a different enemy every single time you see it. It's like, sure, this guy takes 1 damage and that guy takes 1 damage, but they look completely and act completely different. Like,
you have mostly unique enemies per stage. There might be 1 or 2 like that carry over from other stages, but
sure,
for the most part,
it just ties the narrative together.
Exactly. Keeps you thinking, keeps you guessing on how bad guys are going to act. That's the other thing. To keep adding new bad guys, that reduces artificial difficulty as well, because then you're actually having to learn how these new bad guys act, and even if they're not harder, it's like more just like learning, and that's kind of neat. It's different.
So, moral of the story, I think artificial difficulty can be good in some situations, and definitely bad in others. As long as you're not lazy about it and you're honest about it, I think it can be a good thing. If you're lazy about it, and you kind of try and hide it behind certain things, then it is
like making a Chozo gold.
Yeah.
Well,
or making you use a certain mechanic over and over again. Then it becomes less interesting to me as a game mechanic. But that about wraps that up. You guys ready to get in the review?
Let's crack her open.
Dude, this is gonna be good. I'm very excited about this. Let me get this started and we'll switch on over. Swing. Boom. We're here.
Footage.
So it's my footage. I got my mouse in the middle of the screen there. Let's move that.
Nice.
So the game that we're reviewing today, and this is gonna be, that menage a trois of review that we're doing here, is Metroid Dread. Okay. This game was developed by, I have it here, Mercury Steam. I want to say Stream, but it's Steam. And this is the same company that developed the Metroid 2 remake, which I'll make comments about in a little while as well. And this game came out on the 8th of last month, October 8th, for the Nintendo Switch. And you can pick it up for $59, $59.99.
Or if you feel like balling real hard, you can be like Josh and me and find the super deluxe
$89.99.
$89.99. That's the MSRP. Oh, it's hard to find.
It's hard to find. I don't think you can.
It's real hard to find. But if you have someone like my sister-in-law who is like a Google god, then you might be able to find one. You know? Anywho, very, that's the details of the game. Let's hop into the review. And we're going to kind of do this a little bit differently from how we normally do too, since it's all three of us, and we don't want this to be a mess. So we're going to kind of go through the points, a little more, concisely, but we're also going to kind of take turns here. So I'll go ahead and get us started off. What did you like about the game? There's a lot to like about this game. First of all, the movement in this game is better than any Metroid of previous, any other iteration.
The best feeling Samus literally ever.
Freaking tastic. What else did I like about the game? Yeah. The story, which I was not sold on at first, but once we get into the spoilers, I'll explain why. We'll do that.
Spoiler alert, by the way. You will be spoiled watching this.
We're gonna wait till later. We'll give some big spoiler alerts later. Let's hold off on spoilers for right now, though.
Make a phone call. Keep talking.
Yeah, for sure. What else? Visually, I actually, that might actually fall into something that I'm mixed on the visuals. I really love the visuals, but I'm also a big fan of the pixel art, and I think that probably the best pixel art ever in a Nintendo game is in Super Metroid. So it's really good. So
it's really good. No, I'm not denying, but I don't know about the best pixel art.
Yeah, dude, Mega Man Zero.
I think
Zero was pixel art.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. But I wouldn't call that a Nintendo game. That's a
Nintendo game. Yeah.
Mainline Nintendo game. I think it does Super Metroid then.
Yeah, I think it's got to be. I can't think of anything that looks better.
It looks amazing
for a mainline Nintendo game. What else did I like about the game? There's probably plenty. I don't want to take up too much time on this, so I'm gonna actually go ahead and pass the ball over to Zach. Before I do want to just give everyone a forewarning. I'm gonna be real critical on this game.
Yeah.
But I still absolutely freaking loved it. So I just want to get that out of the way so people don't riot. But Zach, why don't you tell us why what you liked about the game?
So echoing the same things you did, visually or like control wise, the feeling of the game is absolutely phenomenal. You feel every time you get an upgrade in this game, you feel so much more power, like you've never felt before. Like in Metroid, part of the game is getting upgrades, running around doing stuff, but you just feel like a god every time you pick something up. If whether it's as simple as the morph ball or as wildly overpowered as the spin jump, the
screw attack.
Screw attack, thank you.
Yeah.
Couldn't come up with the name of it. The feeling of the game was awesome. The other thing that I really, really, really liked was their amazing use of railroading techniques. Metroid is all about exploration. And I never once truly felt lost, but I also still felt like I was doing my own exploration for most of it. The early parts of the game, and Paul will probably talk more about this later, the early parts of the game are very railroady. It kind of feels like you're just being sherped along by the game, and whatever, it's fine. But when
I was listening,
you're good. But that's because the game uses a couple of really key elements to help you figure out the path for yourself. One is the standard Metroid point of no return. If you, let's say, slide under a barrier, if the game doesn't want you to backtrack from that barrier, it puts you down a level, and deliberately, but it doesn't feel like it does. It feels very smooth, like I said. So it's part of that smoothness. It uses a lot of points of no return effects to really help you figure out what the path is.
I would say to linearize it almost is the word.
Sure. But like, you know, it helps you without handcuffing you in most cases. Like there's still options. There's still decisions you can make for yourself. You guys both finished it. I think Paul, you definitely did, and I think Josh did as well. Finished the game before collecting all the stuff.
Oh, yep.
Yeah,
I didn't. I collected all the stuff, then finished the game, and deliberately because I knew at least one of you had done it the other way, and so I definitely was making some of those decisions that it left up to me, especially in the late game.
Nice.
The other thing that it did, and I didn't know this until I watched a YouTube video, and I wish I had a reference to it. All the keys necessary to open the next area were very, very close to, or just around a fast travel point from the element that they needed to interact with to unlock it.
Yeah.
Everything was very, very close. Even like sometimes you pick up an item and you'd have to go through a teleporter to get to the keyhole. So you felt that sense of distance, even though it was right there for you. So I thought
proximity,
their use of proximity and their use of point of no return was extremely admirable, and just made for this game to be a very deep, immersive experience.
I agree.
Josh, how about you? What things did you like about this game?
What did I like about the game? God damn, I loved this game. I will go on to mention, add on to Zach's points, and then I'll kind of say some of my own real quick. The map is one of the most beautifully crafted Metroidvania maps ever made.
So
I love
good.
Hollow Knight so much, don't get me wrong, and I love Super Metroid and all those games. Hollow Knight probably is still the best map as far as great scale. But as far as intricacy, this map literally fits together like a puzzle. And like Zach was saying, as far as utilizing it to show you perspective where you can't go, where an item is, or where something is that you can't get to, all sorts of perspective. And this map literally fits together like a jigsaw to where like you can be on this point and you don't even realize you're like, oh shit, that's where that was. And that's where I was like when I only had this ability before I got the thing, you know, like. I think that is amazing. It's absolutely a masterpiece. It would have been super hard to make one map. So I think it's fine to have done the multiple areas like we're used to in Metroid games. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's Metroidvania. It's very typical.
I was just kind of expecting more open world in the beginning, mainly because that's kind of where Nintendo's been going. I think Nintendo's been going in that direction. I'm not, this isn't a dislike, by the way. But I loved that it really didn't hold your hand, but at the same time, I feel like it kind of did. I feel like it was kind of linear. But what was I saying just now? Fuck. And then I jumped over it. Paul was like, me too.
You were talking about how in the beginning it felt a little handholdy and
little hand. Yeah.
And
part of that is because of the techniques that they were using to guide you are limited by the number of abilities you have. So as you get more abilities, you have more, you are enabled better to move around more and therefore access more stuff that
I agree. You
couldn't. So I think part of that is almost necessary or a necessary evil associated with the tools that they were using.
Yeah. I think they're going to do more open world for Prime. They're going to save all that. I think it's good to utilize this, and in the late game you do a full reign. Like in the beginning, when I was running it on my second run, I'm still not really that far in, but like I feel like you really can just go, and like my brain can kind of turn off, and I'm like, no, this is the right way to go. It just feels like it. You know what I mean? And you're pretty much right 85% of the time, 90% of the time. And then when you get later and later, it's like, okay, now it feels less like it because I have more options, and it kind of holds your hand less and less. And that's nice, but it holds your hand less and less because you're becoming more and more godlike. And this is, again, not a knock on the game. This is something I really like, especially the ending. Jade, are we chilling? Is she having a nightmare? She's like growling.
We're not going to, don't spoil the ending yet. Let's try and save that for as late in the review as we can.
About but the scale gain like of godliness, where I'm not going to spoil it yet, but it's just like immense. So the hand holding becomes less, but you become more amazing, especially down to the end. and it just feels like there's no need for it because you're just like destroying the entire place. Basically, all that to say, yeah, the movement's amazing. All that's amazing. The story is incredible. I thought it was the best Metroid story so far. I think that Prime is a hard runner-up, but it didn't cut as deep into the series. Again, no spoilers yet. Metroid Prime is probably the biggest as far as how deep back it reaches for Samus's origin story, but it's like still after her family is lost and stuff like that. And then we get a lot of the Space Pirate and Ridley backstory. Here, we got a lot of Samus's backstory before even the loss of.
Yes.
Well, now we have more insight, even actually.
So much.
It's actually even more insight than to her just Zibbies being destroyed.
I mean, you get a lot of that insight in Zero Mission. They go into a lot of that, but I mean, technically that's. It's canonical and it's part of the mainline series. Kind of, it's a remake of the first one, so it's just they added some fan service in there. I feel like to kind of, I think that's when they wanted the story to kind of stand out quite a bit. Actually, when they did Zero Mission specifically, that's like right after Prime, I think, and they realized they could take this series in a really powerful direction as far as the story is concerned. And then Zero Mission came out, and they were like, we're like and then Fusion. I don't remember the order of all this. I think Zero Mission was actually after Fusion. It was.
Okay. So they were like really reinvigorating the series down to now so I love the story. Yeah. Feels smooth as butter. Oh my God. Just running around that world.
Best controls in a Metroid game.
Incredible. So incredible. Yeah. And now what's the next thing? Move on to Paul for the next line.
Here we go for the next one. So what did you not like about the game? Again, I'm going to go back to my disclaimer from earlier. I absolutely love this game, but I'm gonna get critical on it.
Yeah, me too.
Get dirty here.
The first thing that I noticed right away that I really didn't like. Now this did change pretty soon into the game, but not as soon as I would have liked. Was how handholdy it is at the beginning. You know, I'm used to, or what I expected from a Metroidvania, is kind of like, here's your sandbox, figure it the fuck out. You know, and it really. Does a lot as far as like telling you where to go, as well as with the storytelling. Now, again, I'm going to echo the point that Josh made about how I do think this is probably the best story that they've done. Now, do I think they told the story in the best way? No, I do not.
No.
And not to say that they did it bad, but like one of the things that the Metroid series has always done very, very well is been able to tell a story with very little exposition and a lot of subtext. And there's none of that in this. It's all exposition, no subtext. Which is, it's fine. Like I said, in the end, it made it all worth it to me.
There's subtext for the future, I think. But I don't think there's like on the potential because we didn't really get a cliffhanger. So you know,
dude, I didn't realize most of this gameplay was going to be me trying to do this Shine Spark puzzle. Anyway, continuing.
This one sucks.
This one's not that hard. I was just being an idiot about it. Anyway, going back to what I didn't like about the game, artificial difficulty. This game is full of artificial difficulty.
Love it.
And towards the end, it resolves that, right? But not until almost the very end of the game. In fact, the final boss is the only boss that I didn't think was plagued with artificial difficulty. And this is how it does it, right? So a traditional Metroid boss, you would fight kind of similar to how you fight a Mega Man boss, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You get in there, it dicks you down, and then you do that a couple times and you learn the patterns and you defeat the boss. What this game does, and they introduced this in the remake of Metroid 2, which is actually I'm gonna talk about my Metroid mainline tier list later.
I have mine too.
Why the remake is low on the tier list is because of this very thing. And it's not that I think it's necessarily a bad mechanic, but it's because they use it as a crutch and enforce it with artificial difficulty that I'm not a fan. And that is the melee counter. Most of the bosses in the game, spoiler alert, kind of, you need to use the melee counter.
spoiler.
And how they force you to do that, and it was most evident on I think it's probably the third boss, third or fourth boss,
dude.
Oh yeah, well no, but I would say even before that, it was on regardless, it was on Kraid, right? Spoiler, Kraid's in the game. Sorry,
I never hit him once with the.
I don't think I'd melee countered him
Not even
once.
kidding. I never melee countered him.
That's fine, and
But
you guys may
I'm
not
sure I
have,
missed
but
it.
here's
I
the
missed it
thing.
probably.
Kraid was Kraid's been in almost every Metroid game. Actually, I think every Metroid game.
Not Primes.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
It's I'm just talking about mainline. I don't think Kraid is in Fusion. But it's got a pretty distinct moveset and so on and so forth. You can learn it pretty quickly, and it's actually not a very difficult boss as far as the mechanics
It's intimidating.
But here's
definitely intimidating.
Here's what frustrated me. That boss can freaking like almost one hit you. But if you get hit by the spikes, it takes like an entire bar and a half of health. And at that point in the game, you don't have very much health. And so like you have to almost, unless you're a god, which you could be. I mean, like I said before, the pattern's not that difficult. No. But you could beat it without using your melee counter. But the other thing is that it has an insane damage pool.
It does.
You're doing it for a really long time. And so you end up getting fatigued.
I was up and down that wall a lot.
Exactly. And so like it's very clear that what it wants you to do is do that melee counter, which you do, and boom, game over. Which was frustrating. And I thought, okay, maybe they just did that with this one, right? Okay, fine. It's almost every single boss in the game. So that was incredibly frustrating to me. It's something that I didn't like about the game. Again, I got past that. I still think the game's very good. But it wasn't, that was a little bit disappointing for me. Another thing I didn't like, and these are real minor ones. Two things. Number one, the music, not that it's bad, but it's a little too active. And what I mean by that is one of the things that instills like that feeling of loneliness and dread in previous. There we go. I hit that shine spark. Anyway, one of the things that instills those feelings in previous Metroid games is the simplicity and the ominousness of the music. And I really just never felt that when I was playing this game. Again, not that the music was bad, but it really just didn't give me that same feeling that I was expecting. Another thing is kind of the environments. While I really did like the map, another thing that really instills those feelings of desolation and loneliness and dread are kind of more passive environments, like a little more emptiness, a little less going on in the background. You can still have a beautiful background, and many Metroid games do, but like if you look at every background that we've seen in the gameplay so far, they're very busy.
They're
right?
Gorgeous.
They're gorgeous, but they're very busy. So you don't have that lonely, hopeless feeling that you do in most other Metroid games. For a game that's called Metroid Dread, this had a surprisingly low amount of dread in it, especially coming right off the back of Metroid Fusion, which is at some points is terrifying.
Yeah.
And we talked about that a little bit.
I have a better name for this game, honestly, but it's a spoiler. We'll talk about it with the ending.
Okay.
Just Metroid?
No, it's better. I think it's a good one.
Yeah, so that's what I didn't like about the game. Other than that, I think the game is near flawless, to be honest. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass the ball off to Zach.
Okay, well, I'm gonna add on to this pile of criticism.
Interesting.
Because, I have a list.
Okay,
oh, God.
Let's hear it.
So, first of all, I'll start with my minor quibbles.
Sure.
There were no actual Metroids in it. That was odd, but fine.
I'm going to jump on that one actually real quick and say
don't do it yet. Don't do it yet. Don't do it yet.
I know, Josh.
So I don't have to say it in mine.
So that thing that you just mentioned is something that bothered me but
right up until
something changed my mind.
It still
exactly.
didn't.
Yeah.
It still didn't get my fix, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
In the same way.
As
I
far
wanted
as
real
combat is
Metroid.
concerned, I agree.
I wanted
but,
to kill them.
Yeah,
I was really waiting for that. Yeah.
It had extremely switchy load times.
Yeah.
The load
Yeah.
times
I didn't
were
mind the
heinous.
load times.
That's something that I didn't hold against it, but
I'm not gonna, I can't mark it
agree
off
with you. Yeah.
harshly for that. It's just a quibble.
Yeah.
I'll come back to the end game stuff when we get to that. So I do have a quibble about the end game, but I'm not going to get into that just now. The Emmy, which were like touted as like the big focal point of this game, weren't scary at all. They were just a nuisance.
I never really felt threatened.
They were just a nuisance.
Yeah.
Pain in the ass. The Kraid fight was like a big question mark to me. It felt like he was just stuffed in there.
Agreed.
It could easily have been something else. It was, and honestly, I didn't
It's
even
an
notice
open-ended
it was
question
Something that
also.
rhymes with Schmidley.
It's an open-ended question also, because he was controlled by the space pirates, and it's like, what? I don't even understand
Why
what the
is he here?
connection
Like-
into the Chozo and the space pirate is then, and that's very open-ended, and we don't get an answer to that.
Well, you do, Josh. One of the end game content art pieces does show the Chozo capturing him from the space pirates.
Yeah.
See,
So I did have to. I looked that up.
well, there you go.
But I'm sorry, I'm not going to play. Like this game doesn't have solid.
That's
enough
actually kind of
replayability
cool that they
I'm
added
gonna
that,
go
because
try and
that was a
track
thing I
down.
was concerned about.
Right. So
Where's
yeah,
Ridley
it is
and
there.
where's
It's
Space
in the end game art content. But I was like, I wouldn't know that unless I like perfect ran the game, and
Same. I didn't know
about
until just now.
Speaking of Schmidley, Paul, where the heck was Ridley?
Yeah.
Like
No space pirates, so no Ridley.
Yeah, not a single
Exactly.
space pirate.
But
Space
That was
pirate
also
games,
strange.
whatever.
if you're putting Kraid in, like you've got this weird experiment Z57 boss fight, the laser breath guy.
Laser Breath is my favorite boss, honestly.
I was like, that was
aside
a good boss.
from the final
Could
boss.
have
Final
been
bosses.
Ridley.
Yeah,
Could have been Ridley.
Could have been Ridley. Yeah.
I was waiting for Ridley. I was like, he's going to be an
too. I said the whole
experiment. He's
game.
going to be mutated or something. We're going to see Ridley for sure. Just like
Yeah.
we saw Mecha Ridley in Prime, we'll see like a Mutant X Ridley for sure.
Exactly. And I was like, such a disappointment.
I will say, go ahead. I think they're really trying to. They really wanted to. It's a quickie. It's a quickie. They really wanted the Chozo to be the front-running race, though. I noticed they didn't want you to think like Space Pirates and Chozo and
And I am getting into that right now, so I'm actually kind of glad you went into that.
Okay.
The repetition of Chozo bosses, I was ready to rip the game in half.
Did you love
Like
it?
the same damn boss, like 800 times.
It got easier for me.
Yeah, it gets easier because you get more powerful.
We get better at the
And you get
pattern.
better at the same.
Yeah, but once you get the multi
pattern.
missiles or whatever, they're
It's
not
you can
even
make mincemeat
a
of them.
challenge. Even
Like the
two
guy
show
who's-
up and you're like, ha ha ha, idiots. You
Right.
just
That's exactly what I said. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, dummies! You don't know what's coming at you." And then like the final one, which the final,
just
and
gave it a shield.
Spoilers. Yeah, they gave
Right.
it a shield, and it's a damn bait and switch.
yeah.
I was livid. I got into the final zone. I'm like, oh, there's one Emmy left. This is
Oh, the
like,
Emmys. I thought you were
this is
still
a good one.
talking about the
And-
that Chozo.
Well, I
Oh,
am.
yeah.
Okay.
You get up to the Emmy, and then oh, just kidding, it's a Chozo fight, and it's the same one you just fought.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, they did a disservice to
Seriously?
the Emmys for sure.
yeah, it just
Especially
it didn't
since they were billed as
land
like
for me.
such a scary.
I think
Well,
the
so
dread
that's
is
another
more
one,
the
like-
encroaching. Like the dread is the Chozo, I think, and like they were in control of that.
But
We
it
get that, but
shouldn't be- like with all the
I get
marketing
it.
they put into the Emmys, that's not
I
how we
agree.
do it.
No, I agree with what you're saying.
And that's another complaint I have is
Yeah.
they spoiled way too much leading up to this game.
Yeah.
Or maybe not spoiled. Spoil's not the right word, but
The
like,
only thing that was a spoiler was the Chozo guy in the armor. I think
Yeah,
I would have
maybe.
rather not seen that.
I don't
Like,
know. I
'cause-
just yeah. I
mean,
think
we
they-
kind of knew that the Chozo were in charge if we really like studied it, because then we
Maybe.
did see him like in the thing, and we see the Emmys, and they're just robots. We
Yeah,
can't
I
see
didn't.
that they're in
It
charge
didn't
of
bother me
themselves.
that they showed the Chozo before release, only because they did a really good job of. I mean, they basically within the first 10 minutes of the game, you encounter them and you
Not even.
figure
It's
out.
just a cutscene. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really fast.
So.
But I do have a couple other things. One of the things is replacement abilities. like there are abilities you get in the very beginning of the game that you're just like, oh, this is really cool. Like the grapple to the blue stuff.
Oh yeah, one's just like a level up to the old. It's like just another way to get around. And
right. It's like, okay, now I just use screw attack and I never use the grapple thing
yeah.
again. And now the grapple thing is actually annoying me.
Yeah, they did that in Metroid. Yeah, actually, ever since
all of them.
Super.
Yeah,
because
no, it's
once you get past like that ability, you literally never use the grapple again.
Yeah, right.
Or
and
the wall clang. Yeah,
frustrating, but like not the worst. And then my last one was defeating the Emmy. Like I didn't think we would going into the game. I was like, oh, the Emmys are just going to be there and we have to dodge them. Like that's all you can do about it. And then all of a sudden they give you this stupid Omega Cannon, which is literally the definition of a Deus Ex Machina. And
it's cool, but that's it.
It's cool, but then you're just like, oh, okay.
I mean, you can see in my gameplay right now how not threatened by the Emmy I feel. I'm just like dodging around it.
It's the most unthreatening thing anyway. So I actually like my title for my notes card here is Metroid carrot not very dread carrot full.
Bringing back fusion again, I think that if they didn't sequester the Emmy to specific zones and made it more of a random encounter, at least like in fusion it feels like more of a random encounter, even though it might not necessarily be, that would have instilled way more dread. If I'm just like chilling, going through a zone and all of a sudden there's this Emmy chasing me and I'm shitting my pants, that would be way more scary than, oh, here's a Emmy zone. I know where it is. I know what I'm in for.
Yeah.
There's no, like the anticipation just goes out the window. So.
Right. All right, Josh, what are your complaints, if any?
Very few. I will give the Emmys as one of my complaints, as killing them was one of the more frustrating parts of the entire game. Frustrating, not dreadful. It was frustrating to aim the stream beam, and especially in tiny ass cracks where you only had one access point, the blue one especially.
Don't aim for the ass crack, aim for the face.
Well, yeah, when they're going up and down, and I literally can't keep it steady because for some reason they wanted to make you feel like you're holding a real gun, but it's a joystick. And I'm like, please make everything else smooth in the game, but this one aspect.
Right.
And so this is my biggest complaint of the game is the stream to face mechanic, and where you get this awesome shot, I can just blow their heads off in one shot, but now we have to weaken the metal around their face. Yeah. That just like totally made it stupider and much more tedious in my opinion. That's like 3 points off for me. Like literally like that's one of the biggest things is having to kill the Emmys. I agree. Yeah. Especially when we get to the end and it no longer even becomes an issue apparently for Samus. And it's just like, wow, what's the point type scenario. And it's also kind of mechanic, no pun intended. They are mechanical. They have no soul. We don't even find out the Chozo anything until we meet one like 75% way through the game. And then there's a ton of bad guy versions of Chozo all of a sudden in the home stretch, including the final boss. And I'm like, we see one Chozo, and aside from the main guy in the beginning, and then he, spoiler alert, dies, and then also spoiler alert, not entirely. Well, kind of. And then every Chozo we see from then on is like bad. And so like the Emmy is almost like a charade for the bad guy.
Yeah.
I would have much preferred Space Pirates and some way to integrate the two. I understand having the two might be difficult, but it could have been like an abandoned frigate that the Space Pirates were left in control with, and the Chozo were regaining control over it and the planet, residing by it and all that stuff, and like purging off the Space Pirates. That's why Crate is there, Ridley's maybe there. That would have been fucking sick. I would love that. Another thing, variety in weaponry. I'm actually kind of annoyed that there wasn't a little bit more, considering this is the newest installment. We didn't really get the most amazing things already existed. I think that the newest things that I loved were the Flash. That guy was really cool, the flashy guy. But then the turn invisible slow-mo thing I didn't like very much at all.
That was annoying.
And then, cool, I got 7 upgrades for my bomb. That's neat. My sequence breaks were all from bomb jumping. This is what I didn't want to tell Zach in the beginning.
That's how most sequence breaks in traditional. Sequence breaks, which is another reason I was frustrated we didn't get the bomb earlier in the game.
But then
it's usually like your first upgrade.
That's the other thing. It holds your hand until at least the morph ball, when it's like, okay, now you can just go back to those holes, but it's still like, kind of like obvious. And then we get like 4 versions of the bomb, including the cross bomb, which in my opinion was super confusing and weird to like boost with it. And I was like, wait, it's just like
annoying.
Really,
yeah.
I was like, it's just like a sideways regular bomb, because I was using this to bomb jump in the beginning of the fucking game. You can bomb jump really well. It gives you unlimited bombs. And I thought that was sweet. But to give you the cross bomb, it's like, okay, you're just kind of holding newer players' hands. If you really want us to bomb jump, teach us how to bomb jump. Don't like give us a whole other item slot. This could have been anything. And there was like the scanner and stuff, and I'm just like, so much of this.
There was a scanner in Super. Yeah. It operated differently. I like it better in Super actually, because it's that like beam.
Yeah.
That you can
Yeah.
It doesn't just spoof the whole area.
I will say in Metroid Prime, you start the game with the scanner and never lose it. So it's kind of like, that's an upgrade in the late game, huh? Just to help me 100% it. Okay. Missiles being incrementally divided was very annoying, because it kind of
right?
Artificial collectivism or whatever.
You know what? Yeah, sure. What was more annoying was the health.
Donkey Kong 64.
Like I got to pick up 4 health pieces. All of a sudden it's Zelda.
That was so annoying.
I think that more puzzly ways to get a finite number of things. Like I would have rather gone through like again
more Shine Spark puzzles or things like that.
Not to reference Prime so much, but like there was a good amount of collectibles, but not like a ton. It wasn't crazy varied. And you'd go through like really like arduous puzzle sections and like long sequences just to get like one missile upgrade or one energy tank. And I appreciated that. It wasn't just like, oh, I'll like walk up and just like, oh, I didn't even know this missile was here. It's just like they're everywhere, so I just grab one. You know, some of them are kind of puzzly. I would have appreciated more Shine Spark stuff, or entire areas or like map sections dedicated to like getting one E-tank, as opposed to 4 being like randomly placed. And like walking up to one, I'm like, is this a challenge? Like some of them are really annoying to get, and some of them are just like walk up to them. It seemed pointless. I didn't like the third boss very much at all. That was like one of the
the underwater one.
That's the underwater boss. It forces you to
didn't hate that one, but
it forces you to do the thing, the bing bong. And I will say, artificial difficulty or not, I appreciated the difficulty of this game actually, aside from the Emmys, which is like one shot stupid bullshit. I appreciated the difficulty, and I thought that like using your counter was almost just like using any other thing. I was like, well, in the final boss, it requires me to use my power bomb to destroy the orange sphere. It's just like using a counter when he's doing a shiny thing.
I think the final boss, even though it does require the counter, I think it's the most balanced boss in the game.
It requires everything, though.
Yes, exactly.
I think I would have that followed by laser boss are my favorite based on how much it demands from you. And like how much
you have to know,
like you have to know, like you have to be in the air when you see his arm go like this or some shit, or or like he when he aims the gun at you, like in the second phase, like if you're not screw attacking in a perfect circle around him, well, if you didn't know how to screw attack before, you do now. Perfectly. Like it's awesome, but I would say that's really my only complaints. I will give a nod to what Paul said about the music as well, and so also the graphics. Like I was a little concerned about the graphics in the background at first, but it did to me what Tropical Freeze did to Donkey Kong, where I actually fell in love with the artistic depth.
Oh my God.
And it gave me a bigger world. And I wasn't mad about the art. The music, however, was not as Metroidy as I want. And I don't know if I could even like recite any of the songs like from this game.
Yeah.
I would prefer.
Dude, I constantly have like Metroid 2 music in my head.
Yeah.
Not
For me,
at all.
It's Super and Prime. Those are the ones that like the music is just so iconic. And I would agree, it's like it's trying to be like ambiance music, but at the same time, it does add too much without being as Metroidy as it could be. Last thing that I didn't like about it was the amount of tutorial scenes. The AI thing, which ties into the finale, which was really cool. Actually, I thought that was cool. The AI guy, the Adam or whatever, also just talked so fucking much. I'm just like, I didn't need
way too much exposition.
I didn't need any of that information. Thank you for telling me exactly what I needed to do. But like, and I felt the need to go into these rooms that I knew were just like these map stations or this or that or whatever, a random save station, just because I was like, it's not going to let me move on until I stick my fist into this hole and just upload the next part of the story. And I'm like, that was a little linear for me. Again, that fades off like 40% of the way, 50% of the way through, but that's really all my complaints. Again, this game is amazing. The positives way outweigh the negatives. All of that is only a few points for me. None of that deters and hurts my experience. And And again,
but it's all stuff worth mentioning.
Yeah, I didn't mind artificial difficulty. I like games that like really force me to be perfect. Like I love Cuphead and stuff like that. They might be different, but like you are forced to learn the pattern and be perfect, lest you die immediately. Yeah, like, right. You know what I mean? And all of it there is some RNG like in Create and shit with like how sporadic he like shoots his shit. But I learned even those can be like shot out of the sky. There's like a way for everything. Yeah. You can turn into a morph ball to dodge those belly spikes, and you can refill on health out of the goo on his belly button for like 10 minutes straight. And I was like, okay, so artificial difficulty or not, it does kind of balance out. At least for me, I thought I didn't notice it as a bad thing, really.
Let's kind of, because we're running short on time, we're actually over, but let's kind of speed run through some of these and circle back to story, and we'll go ahead and do spoilers then. So the next few points would be how's the gameplay? I think we all agree the gameplay is excellent.
Okay. Incredibly smooth. Yeah. Perfect.
It's yes. How's the art? We kind of have mixed feelings, but overall it's very good.
I would say it's beautiful still. It's beautiful, I'd say it's one of the better looking games on this. Yeah. I'd say this felt like an experiment for like a first person Metroid. This would be what a first person Metroid should look like. And
third person?
No, first person. This is like how many in and out of her headset scenes and how much depth they have in the level.
I mean, they've already done. I mean, Prime is their first. I disagree on that with the first person thing, only because Prime.
I'm saying they're trying to level their audience into this 3D perspective.
That's not their job though. Like there's a totally different studio creating that game.
Actually, game is all I know, and that Shigeru Miyamoto looks at these games very differently than the producing companies, and he puts his hand on all of them and knows how interconnected all this shit is. And although producing studios,
Prime is not even canon with the mainline series, so I can't agree with.
No, they're two parallel. Dude, I'm literally talking about the graphics right now.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Not the story. I'm talking about the graphics.
No, I know.
Miyamoto did work on all of these games. And he is literally the mind behind all of this. And all I'm saying is, I see how many times did we get into her helmet? Like 20 times in Dread. And that is not something we've ever seen before. I'm just saying the perspective change, trying to adapt the audience to a 3D perspective, preparing us potentially for how much more. Again, I don't think it's the ideal like art style for the 2D one, but I still think it was pretty. That's pretty much where I was getting at.
Fair enough. Music. We all agreed it was fine, but it wasn't. It didn't really necessarily hold up to previous iterations. Yep. Sound design's very good.
It's very good.
Yeah,
very good. There was like a bad guy or whatever.
How long did it take? I think we all had different clear times. Mine was a little longer. I was playing it on stream, but you could realistically beat this in as few as 6 hours. It took me around 10 or 11 hours.
Yeah, mine was 12. So
the world record is 1 hour and 25 minutes right now.
Well, and that's speed running. That's a little different, but
just to show you where the floor is.
Exactly, absolutely. Let's see. Was the game difficult? Yes.
Yes.
In some ways, very, very good. In some ways, I would say there's some examples of artificial difficulty. We kind of might disagree a little bit on that, but you know, it's is a difficult
Contra hard.
Yeah,
it's not Contra.
It's not Contra hard. That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, we'd all play a sequel.
Of course.
So let's circle back to the story.
Let's crush it real quick.
How was the story?
Alert.
This is where we're going to get into spoilers for sure. The story is excellent. I think it's, like Josh said before, probably the best story of any Metroid game. Now, again, how it was told, I wasn't necessarily a fan of in some ways, but in other ways, it did a very good job. Just a lot of exposition, which I wasn't like super keen on.
The Chozo in the middle monologuing was like,
right.
Really
so annoying.
15-minute cutscene.
Right. And like, we don't need cutscenes like that in Metroid games. We never have. So
the cutscenes of Samus just kind of looking around like, oh God, where am I? That was cool.
That's again something they do in the Prime series.
Yes,
with the cutscenes, and I think they're trying to adapt audience for change. Is all I'm saying.
Maybe. But when it boils down to it, I wasn't a fan of the story until the end. Kind of like Zach had put, there's not a Metroid in the game. Kind of.
Right.
Kind of. A spoiler. Here comes a big one.
Well, do you guys want me to spoil it? You guys want me to spoil it?
Let's lead into it. Let's lead into it.
Okay,
real
so
quick.
there's two twists in this game. One of them I definitely expected. The other I did not. The one that I did expect was your relation to the big bad, right?
Yeah.
This Chozo was the Chozo,
the progenitor of Samus herself.
Yes. Yeah, basically the person who made Samus who she is, which was incredible. Which also another part of the game that I didn't like until the end was Adam, actually, because Adam in Fusion is almost indistinguishable from her old commander, and she knows that he's dead, but the AI is so similar and like compassionate and all this stuff. You got none of that. In fact, it's got a very robotic voice.
I wanted it robotic because of how much he was talking, though.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when you look at how much he was talking, I kind of agree. But when it boils down to it, I went into it having just finished or been in the middle of playing Metroid Fusion and like known the relationship with her and Adam and was like, this is supposed to be a much more like close relationship, not just this old robot. Little do we know, at the end, it's not.
It wasn't Adam.
It was never
Adam. It was Chozo Dada.
Right.
Chozo
now,
Dada. That's
the
best nickname we've given him so
explains
far.
quite a bit about Samus, though. It explains why she perfectly melds with all the technology.
Yeah.
Like she's literally, she's kind of like. Well, okay. Get into the next part. And we'll talk about
here's what I didn't expect, and if I paid more attention, especially with Fusion and things that have gone on, I might have picked it up, but I didn't see it coming. The Metroid in this Metroid game is
Samus Aran.
Dang, she's the last Metroid in the universe,
which was incredible. Absolutely incredible. The ending to this game made the game for me. It's so fucking cool.
Oh, we don't just find out she's the last Metroid. You become the last Metroid in essence, in Samus form, in the last scene.
Yes, absolutely. And it's fan-freaking-tastic. It's so good.
Amazing. What would you call that gun at the end?
The
Metroid beam
that I want to play more game with?
I'd maybe say the Metroid beam.
We were talking about this after the last stream, Josh and I, and like I realized that playing through the entire game like that would be silly, but I still want to do it. Like, and I want to see that suit again. The suit is so cool. I would love just a mode that allows you to play more with that suit.
Give us the skin.
So cool.
Give us the skin, or put that in Smash Bros. Or something.
So cool. What else would you guys, Zach, is there anything that you want to add about the story?
I think you covered it all. Like that ending fight is so cool.
Amazing.
And the ending like dialogue betwing monologue.
Killing your dad, no big deal.
Yeah, I know, right?
A little bit of patricide.
I was always I always felt like I kept calling him Steelbeak from DuckTales, but his Ravenbeak is his name.
Yeah.
Even dumber.
So I feel like some dev at Mercury Steam was watching too much DuckTales and just called the big bad Ravenbeak. I lost my train of thought.
Talking about Ravenbeak.
Yes, I was. I felt like he was kind of an afterthought.
Really?
I think he made sense.
Like, he definitely made sense. But I feel like that fight was so beautiful and so well executed and so perfect for the plot.
The most balanced fight in the game.
Yes. I wanted him to feel more of his presence throughout the game.
Yeah.
And thinking back on it,
I would have liked him to be the Dread. And he threatens to kill you at any turn. And it's scary to escape him.
Yeah.
That would have been dope.
And it counters the story because why are they killing her? They need the DNA, right? Then why didn't he kill her in the first scene? Because she needed to unlock her DNA. They can extract it. I thought she needed to fully unlock it as well.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's a little foggy. I would have to play through the game again. I do think like, because there's so much exposition in the game, it almost makes some of it hard to follow.
Yeah,
because because you're doing a lot of searching in this game, and you put some of that stuff out of your head. So instead of like finding that stuff out on your own through your discoveries, it's spoon fed to you throughout parts of the game. Yeah. And like I said, some of it's very, very good content, but the delivery system isn't the best. But I do think that overall they did a really good job. It's like a very cool story that exposes more of Samus's origin and her relationship to the Chozo. It kind of unveils a little bit of mystery that we've always had of the Chozo. We've never seen a live Chozo before this game.
That's why we got that character, is to have a Chozo with his clothing, with his armor off, basically, which is the only time we've ever seen them is in armor or in stone form, ruins. Yeah.
But that last fight is so excellent with him using like Chozo versions of Samus's moveset.
Absolutely incredible. That. He literally has a Varia suit. Literally, like he's wearing a Varia suit. It's fucking his own version, basically. Yeah.
I loved. So Josh, just before I started fighting Ravenbeak, I had to look at his name. Just before I started fighting him, I took one stab at him and I was like, no, I have to go to bed now. And over that night, Josh was like, oh yeah, you're gonna need like perfect flow state. It's gonna be beautiful when you do it. And like that encouragement was fantastic. But you were absolutely right. When I hit flow state against him, he barely touched me.
Yeah. You don't even. I didn't take damage for the first 2 segments after I got perfect. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think the second segment's the hardest one.
Oh, definitely.
Just a screw attack for me. I learned.
I didn't have a problem with the screw attack. It was his dash, like getting into the ball. Like,
no, you just slide under the dash.
Yeah, and sometimes I was not in a position.
Sometimes I balled up by accident and got smacked though, or like just slow.
Right.
Or if you just accidentally crouch and you're not in the ball and you get smacked. But
I have final thoughts.
Yes, final thoughts.
Okay, wait. What were you saying?
This Mega Man fan was very happy with this.
Very happy. Oh, we have our scores coming up.
I got my score.
Yep, I got mine too. The Chozo, say what you will and say what I did about the Chozo boss fights. They're literally Chill Penguin fights.
Yeah, they kind of are.
It's exactly the one-on-one
the walls.
The big arena ones are also just Mega Man boss fights.
Yeah, but I felt like that a lot.
Jumping on the walls, it's just Chill Penguin.
Yeah. I wasn't mad about it though. They're like I actually thought that as far as the patterns of the bosses were concerned, I thought they were very well done. I was not a super fan of being forced to use the melee in a lot of situations.
Right. Yeah.
That's basically my only complaint about the bosses.
All right, we ready?
Wait, I have one more thing. So the future of the series. Yes, Samus is now a Metroid, is all the X basically that's left in the universe as well, and the blood of the Chozos, as well as her home planet. So, or whatever is that lineage. What's next for the series? It kind of leaves some monotony out there, but I think she's going to eradicate the Space Pirates in 6, and we're going to see a finale. I think the next Metroid game is the last in the series. That's my opinion as far as how far she's come. So that's I'd
be okay with that.
That's like literally, it's kind of an unsaid thing, but there's only one more thing to do.
Oh, you know what? Should we do you guys want to do a tier list before or after we
give let's do a tier list before.
Let's do it. All right. So for me, as far as like all the mainline Metroid games are concerned, including the remakes, but no unofficial remakes, only official remakes. So there's 7 games in total. Here's my tier list. We're gonna go in reverse order. Okay, so worst to best. Okay, Metroid 1, worst.
That's
terrible.
Not that it's bad. It's just very dated. Doesn't play very well. Samus Returns, which is the remake of Metroid 2.
Oh wow! Okay? Surprised where it is.
No, because I have the same complaints about that game, and it also took away a lot of the things that make Metroid 2 very special, I think, including like the music and the ambiance and things like that. So that's how I feel about that. Metroid Zero Mission, which is the remake of Metroid 1. It's good, but it does do some good like background stuff for Samus and all that, but overall it's not great. as far as like a Metroid game is concerned, I think all of them are great. But on this scale, next comes Return of Samus, which is the second in the series, the original Game Boy. Metroid Dread is
I knew it.
third from the top, so it makes the top.
Pretty good. That's pretty high.
So number 3 is Metroid Dread for me. Super, honestly, Super should be the best, but I just have a special place in my heart for Fusion, which is why Fusion is first. But technically, I think Super's a better game. I just like Fusion better. That's my tier list.
This makes it hard. I might have to reorganize.
Well, I'll give you some time to do that, Josh, because mine, I similarly put the original Metroid at the bottom. Like,
very
it's
low.
Still a game that I enjoyed at one point. It's fine. I put Metroid 2 just above it. I didn't think that the Paul's quibbles, were enough to or about the remake were anyway. So Metroid 2, Zero Mission is third from the bottom. I honestly don't have as much experience with that one as I do with the others, so that's part of why that's there. I have number 4, the remake of Metroid 2. I thought it was better than the original personally, but that's just me. Similarly, Dread is in third for me, and then at the top, Fusion is number 2, and Super is number 1. Super just brings back the most strong nostalgia for me.
Yeah, that's a good list. Good list.
Yep.
I respect it. What about you?
Man, my list is the most different, I feel like. Okay, so I did not play all the way through Zero Mission or all the way through any percent of it through the remake of 2. So that being said, Metroid 1 is still at the bottom of my list, and I haven't even played the other 2, and I'm going to stack them accordingly. Zero Mission right after that, and I'm assuming what is a little better than that, Metroid 2 after that. So what do we got? 3 in. So we got the 4 left. 4? Wait.
Well, there's 2 2s, right? Just like there's 2 1s. You've got Metroid and Metroid Zero Mission. You've got 2 on the Game Boy and the 3DS remake of 2.
And that being said, Jade, you just take
it. So Return of Samus is the Game Boy one. Samus Returns is the.
And I will say I will put that right above that because Metroid 2 for me is a little clunky. And that's really it.
Yeah.
It's just a little clunky. It's a Game Boy game, and I feel like I get a more full experience on console.
It's the first Metroid game I ever played, which is probably why it's also.
Yeah. That's fair.
And so now we're getting to the top 3. Note, my top 3 is based on how much I enjoy playing this game. How much do I want to come back? How much do I love playing this game? And how good does it feel all the time? Mm-hmm. Okay. That being said, it's not necessarily what game is better, but for me, what game I would rather play. I think this is my top 3. So you guys are going to be a little surprised. Fusion is number 3. Incredible game. It's so amazing. I love this game a lot. I think it's really good. I think these are all almost a tie.
I finished it again while I was playing this game.
While we were having the review. It's almost a tie for all 3 of these, if I'm being honest. And then here comes 2 and then 3. It's a shock. Super Metroid number 2. Metroid Dread is honestly my favorite mainline Metroid game now.
To me, actually.
It is not shocking.
No, it's not shocking
it feels so good to play.
It does feel good.
It honestly, how good it feels to play trumps any negative for me. It is so smooth to run around this planet. Any negative is outweighed by the fact that I picked up Super Metroid last week to play it and got a little bit in, and it's just so much grindier and clunkier. Just in the beginning of the game, and Dread just lets you go. And handhold or not, like once you know what you're doing, you can just go. And honestly, playing it your second and third time, I assume, like the more you play it, the better at just fucking running through this game you get. And it's kind of the Donkey Kong experience, smell the roses and then full speed on once you get it down. And I really appreciate that about this game. It's the only Metroid game I've really been able to run through. And I love that about platforming. And it kind of adds a more deep platforming vibe. Metroid Dread is my favorite Metroid in the 5 originals. So, damn.
There you go.
All
right. Let's on 3, we're going to give our scores. 3, 2, 1. Shaklaki. Oh, can you see it? Hey, we're pretty close there, Zach.
Yeah.
8.9 for me.
8.7 for me.
I got a backwards 5 point, backwards 9. No, 9.5.
9.5? Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. My reasoning behind that is mostly because of like just some of the elements that were that I mentioned before, like the artificial difficulty and the exposition, it wasn't enough to make it a bad game. It's still an excellent game.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But it kind of bumped it down the tier list for me compared to like Fusion and Super. Yeah. While those are much more difficult as far as like the controls are concerned, I think that just to me it was a more enjoyable experience as a Metroid game. But that doesn't take away from how good this game is.
No, I agree. I still think all of your thoughts are valid on why the other ones are better, but to me, like, I just had so much fucking fun playing
this game. Was so good, and
my Chinese food just got here. Also, let's wrap it up.
All right,
we'll wrap it up. Anyway, let's switch back to the main thing here real quick, and we'll close it out.
I gotta run and get this.
There we go. Well, this is Difficult Gaming Podcast. If you're watching us live right now, you're on my Twitch channel. It is Ryugami-san. I stream games on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Right now, I don't have like a main game that I'm playing per se. So you might see a mix of things. You might see a little bit of Demon Souls. You might see a little bit of Samurai Warriors. On Thursdays, we do Brawler Bros with my brother. We always play a brawler game. On Saturdays, we have a special stream called Samurai Saturday where we always play a samurai game. So that's a lot of fun. And then, of course, we're back here on every Sunday night for the podcast. In regards to where you can find me elsewhere, we're also on YouTube. If you're watching it there, please share it, like and comment and all that stuff. We love it, but sharing is very important to us. And then if you want to yell at me on Twitter, feel free. It's right down there. So, Josh, where can we find you, my guy?
Hey, perfect time. You can find me at Lord Yeshua and Lord Yeshua TTV, practically never on those channels. But yeah, that's still my other ego or some shit. So playing some Mario Party now. That's fun.
Excellent.
Oh, I'm so out of breath. I'm on the third
Zach,
floor.
where are you at, man?
I'm on Twitch at Another Letdown. Normally we're live Thursday, Friday, Saturday, although this week is my anniversary. So Thursday night we will be off, but I will be back for Friday night for Trapped in Arkham, which is our tabletop simulator cooperative board game stream. We are playing Mansions of Madness, and we are losing our minds very rapidly. This game has gone to the dogs. We've been playing for 2 hours, and we are in a spot. So that'll be fun to tune in and find out how badly we go insane. And then Saturday night, rather, we do miniatures painting. I'm working on the Red Skull from Marvel Crisis Protocol, along with my buddy Mike, who paints whatever he happens to have 3D printed that week. And sometimes Paul's brother Adam joins us. So that's a lot of fun as well. And then I'm on Twitter at DENONCZD.
Excellent. Forgot to mention this week, no stream on Tuesday. I'm going to dinner with a friend for her birthday. So no stream this week. We will be here on Thursday for sure. But excellent. No Tuesday stream. Anyway, that's about it. Everyone have a good night. Thank you guys for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.